All right, so let me do an analysis and explain what are the applications of what I learned in the US experience. All right, okay. Number one, you need a positive social environment. Okay, an environment where you are encouraged, you are accepted, your talents are acknowledged, you are motivated, and you are respected. All right, pure education is not going to help you. Education, knowledge is gained, but still you need to motivate it to become a productive person in a society, to serve the society you are in. For that to happen, you need people to motivate you, all right, to create a positive environment where you feel positive, you feel confident about yourself, you feel respected, so that you can actually spend your life pursuing a dream of advancing the society you are living in. So that environment is there. So in the university I went to, that environment was offered. So that made a big change in my life. That best thing happened when I was in US. Okay. Now, even US, the entire US doesn't have this environment. As you can see, there's a lot of violence in US, a lot of gun shooting where people are getting killed. You see all the shooting speeds and everything. So US itself, all the parts of US may not be having the positive environment. That's one thing. If you look at the whole world, only some selected places like some parts of US or some part of Europe or UK or some in China or some parts of India like Bangalore and Mumbai have this positive environment. But much of the world, probably about 90% of the world, doesn't have a positive environment to motivate a highly talented student to become a productive member and contribute to the society. Alright, so this has only both positive and negative aspects. Uh, so this can both prevent students, smart people from encouraged to do positive things, or sometimes they can be motivated to bad things, right? So having a positive social environment around the world is significant for humanity. So to promote ourselves as a man, as a species, and also avoid any kind of bad things happening by by someone who was negatively motivated to use whatever talents and skill he has in harming humanity, harming the entire world. So in the Unite Soul platform, one of the most important thing that we will do is to create a, what I call as a relational infrastructure around the world, to create a positive environment around the world, to identify students, strong, talented students, to motivate them and to become a productive member of the global community. Not just one particular area in the world or a few particular areas, I'm talking about the entire world. Or it is essential for our own advancement in the future. Right? So as technology advances, we need also create positive environment around the world so that students when they grow up, they only wish to contribute positively and not do anything negative. Alright. So this is one of the important things that I learned from the user experience. Okay, the next thing, I got my idea taken over by somebody and I learned from US in a very hard way. Right, so one of the important thing is protecting intellectual property. So a scientist or innovator or thinker, leader should be able to protect his intellectual property, whatever ideas he creates, and get credit for it. Okay, so now for that, I created the recording site in the Untitled platform where you can record your research work continuously. Alright, so I already stored about hundreds or several hundred pages of documents in the recording site. It will be able to made open to public if there is a dispute arises, and this recordings will be open to everybody else. Okay, it's a very robust way to store intellectual property, evidence of intellectual property. Okay, so that's the second application of Untitled platform to solve some of the problems I faced in my research. Solve the problems of crediting the owners of intellectual property. All right. The third thing is getting financial support that I had in US. The department was trying to cut me off. They want me to leave the program soon. So what makes them do that? It's because I am being supported by teaching assistants. For theoretical physics, there's no funding at all from the government, all right, from the US government. So the theoretical physics people have to be supported by departmental teaching assistants. But teaching assistant is a scarce resource because the other faculties in the department, they need to bring in, they need graduate students to work in their projects, right? So to bring in graduate students, usually the graduate students are brought in. First year they are given teaching assistantship, and the next year they go into work with the research group. So less the number of teaching assistantship they have, less the number of students they can recruit. So the whole department is getting affected. So that's why they want to move out of the way. Alright, so it's a problem of resource constraint, financial constraint. But the problem is the research I am doing is something of very much more fundamental, alright? It's putting together whatever research the other people in the department are trying to accomplish. So ultimately they will come to me, I have to put them all into a theory and give them so that they can use it, and eventually it becomes economically productive in the long term. So what happens is, because of lack of funding to support research at the very fundamental level, there's a big problem here. Alright, so I'm suffering. Alright, so if you look at the world, someone like me works at the very foundations of sciences, alright, the very core, the place where the very basic idea starts, and eventually the idea starting at the very foundations like fundamental physics becomes applied physics, then eventually it becomes engineering, eventually it becomes technology, then it becomes engineering, then it becomes manufacturing, then you have product delivered. Consumers are benefiting. So all the process, the whole economic activity starts from breakthrough in basic physics. Alright? So that's how the world has been advancing over the course of the last 700 years. When Newton published Principia Mathematica, that's the beginning of modern physics and beginning of technology, and whatever happened over the course of several hundred years, which altered life and made our life depend on technology, right? Now, what's happening here? The whole world is consuming the fruits of the progress and basic fruits of the breakthroughs and at the fundamental level in physics or many other sciences. But the thing is, there is very little attention paid to funding the fundamental research. A person who gets to it and try to do research and try to accomplish something, there's so many hurdles are there. Alright, basically no attention has been put into it. That's what I'm mentioning. The whole world is consuming. So compared to this research in fundamental sciences, every other profession is all about consumers. It's about $40 trillion of, now 40 or 50 trillions, maybe 100 trillions of wealth built from the fundamental, came out of this breakthrough fundamental physics. Nothing has come back. People are only busy consuming. There's an illusion that's being created when they go and work hard and they make money. They think they earn their life. They said, I want whatever money I have in bank is because I worked for it. But you didn't work for everything. All right, you didn't pay for everything. For example, this basic ideas came from all over the world. Albert Einstein had worked in a patent office to support his research. Isaac Newton, he went to his grandmother's place, sit there and started thinking, and he developed his contribution. Okay, so you didn't pay for those people. So as long as you don't pay for this, you can't say that you earned your life. Okay, but what happens is over the course of several centuries, all these ideas they're learning from schools and colleges to make technology out of it, to make a living out of it, has been taken granted. So no effort has been put to solve the problems of those who are working at the very foundation of sciences, the very foundation of economic activity. So one of the things that we will do in Untitled platform is get revenue out of these various activities in the Untitled platform, and all the money, most of the money probably will be coming will be invested at the foundational research. All right, in trying to track out smart people all over the world who can make contribution to the fundamental level and support them or help them overcome their problem, and guide them through, invest in them. So this is one of the important goals, that the reason why I created this United Self project as a business, as a part of a business activity. So directly going asking the government to give money, I am directly going for business. Do business, get the profit, invest. All right. So the whole science, full science will become complete. It will become complete business. All right. It's complete now. So the whole circle is complete. So compared to what is happening in fundamental research, okay, in any field of science, every other professionals are consumers of the fundamental research. Okay, any or engineers or technicians or managers or businessmen are consumers. So in spite of about $100 trillion of global economic activity founded on breakthroughs in fundamental research in sciences, very little attention has been put into addressing those issues of financial or sociological or academic issues that's faced by those who work at the fundamental level. Albert Einstein had to support himself by working in a patent office. Isaac Newton stayed in his grandmother's home and started doing research and writing his Principia Mathematica. If you look at people who are working at the fundamental level in any sciences, you will have similar stories often. Okay, so people think, most of the people who are consuming the progress in fundamental sciences think that they earned their life because they went to work, they contributed something, get paid, and so they have earned their life. But that's not fully true. You never paid for those scientists and thinkers who laid the foundations of the modern economic activity. So many of them over the course of 1,000 years risked their life, put effort purely based on altruism to make contribution to advancement of humanity. You never paid them. Galileo had to stay, house arrested to publish his book. Okay, so these have to be addressed. So one of the things that we do in the United States project is to go directly into business. All right, so all the revenues that is collected from various business activities in the United Serve group of companies will, all the profits will be taken up and will be invested in supporting fundamental research, identifying those people or people who are doing those research, who have the potential to contribute, help them in finding the right resources, come to the right place, get the right resources, they're protected, support them, and whatever fundamental breakthroughs they are making, it will be once again invested or used to develop various services in the platform or any other industry throughout the world. Okay, so the United Serve group of companies has a business plan to have a complete circle of flow of economic resources. All right, so you fund the basic sciences, then it becomes applied, it becomes engineering, it becomes manufacturing, it becomes business, then ultimately it becomes consumer products. Then through our services in supporting this process, we collect money and once again invest in fundamental research. So we create a complete circle. We make sure that a complete circle, a flow of circle of economic resources happens. So this is one of the main reason I incorporated many of these companies and creating this Unite Serve venture. So let me come to the social environment in US. Okay, when it comes to family and marriage. So let me explain what I learned from it and what we are going to do in the United project regarding that. So in the Western society, once upon a time, the marriage was very similar to all over the world. It's very conservative. It was arranged by family. It was simple, but over a course of time, it becomes more and more dependent on whoever wants to get married actively by social interaction, building a relationship over a course of time, and getting bonded and eventually becoming marriage. So in this process, some people are very successful in this process. Some people, fail in the middle. So whoever is successful makes a family, has children, and lives happily. But large majority of them don't succeed. In first attempt, they start a relationship, then it breaks down, and then I have seen many Americans, not even Europeans or people living in countries who are culturally westernized, coming and crying and heartbroken. And after some time, they overcome that. I'm not saying start a relationship, and finally may find someone to get married. So, and even after you get married, there may be divorce after some time because of all the family pressures, financial issues, and raising children. Once again, it breaks down. So even though society changed, instead of just artificially putting two people together to live together to become a couple, husband and wife, changed to a process in which they are slowly becoming, slowly through the process of coupling and becoming a family. The process they learn, but most people don't have the adequate skills to successfully do it. So it results in family breakdown with children living all over. First they will have father, then they will have another stepfather, and another stepfather. This ever-changing environment creates an unstable family environment that might lead to people with a lot of psychological issues. And particularly if they don't, the couple, husband and wife, doesn't understand each other, there's a lot of violence in the family. It might lead to violence, accumulating differences, difference of opinion over a course of time. It might unbearable and might lead to violence. So a violent environment is good for, bad for children, right? I mean, the important thing to note here is, so whatever is happening, the way the family is made in US or Europe, you know, in developed countries, is all other developing countries like India or even Africa, Latin America, or even in some Muslim countries, the process of making a family is becoming very similar. In future, families cannot be artificially made, arranged. It had to be done purely through relationship skills. So when men and women they get equal freedom, equally financially free, they can't, they have their own interests, they have their own personalities. It's not easy to put together. So they have to build a relationship on active process and make a family. All right. To assist in that, you need relationship skills, and relationship skill cannot be gained by an individual by reading a book, because you need to learn relationship skill in a relationally intelligent environment. Other people also need to have the same skills. So you might be relationally intelligent, but you are interacting with people who are relationally bad, then you eventually become like them over a course of time, because you keep seeing their behavior again and again. That becomes part of you. So an individual cannot improve his relationships skills by himself. You need a relationally intelligent environment. That means the society as a whole have to advance. Okay, so this advancement not only helps in family, it helps in business, it helps in education, it helps in politics. So it's a broad effect. All right. So one of the important aims of Untitled project is to create a global relational environment, global relational infrastructure. Okay. So we need to create a highly relationally intelligent society over a course of time. It's one of the major goals of Untitled project. And I have written many things online in our website. People can go read it. So I will give you more information about how this is going to happen in further videos. Thank you.